What is populism? The ideology is gaining increasing popularity in the US. There has been an increase in the popularity of populist candidates on both sides of the political spectrum. This can be seen in the candidacy of Donald Trump.
My opponent asks her supporters to recite a three-word loyalty pledge. It reads, "I'm with her." I choose to recite a different pledge. My pledge reads, "I'm with you, the American people."
Bernie Sanders.
We have begun a political revolution to transform America, and that revolution, our revolution, continues.
And Tulsi Gabbard, just to name a few.
And do what is necessary to make sure that no more of our brothers and sisters in uniform are needlessly sent into harm's way fighting regime change wars that undermine our national security. I'll bring real leadership and experience to the White House.
I've got to respond.
But what is populism truly? The Oxford Dictionary definition of populism is a type of politics that claims to represent the opinions and wishes of ordinary people. This view is often juxtaposed with a disdain towards political and financial elites. An elite, in accordance with populism, is a person who holds a concentrated amount of political or financial power. Elites are often grouped into small collections of people who work together to maintain and grow their power. Populist movements are on the rise in the United States. Movements such as the March on Wall Street and Make America Great Again have levied pressure against political elites. The movements and organizations involved target elites with phrases such as "eat the rich" and "drain the swamp," while voicing their concerns with the state of the U.S. and the ignorance of politicians who hold seats in government, mainly in the Senate and House of Representatives, also known as the U.S. Congress. So you might ask, why has populism become so popular? Well, that's a tricky question to answer. In fact, I didn't know the answer myself, so I sat down to do some research. In 2001, the U.S. was attacked by the terrorist organization Al-Qaeda when two commercial airlines crashed into the World Trade Center in New York, as well as the Pentagon. Following the attacks, the corporate media sold the American public on the idea of a war in Iraq. In 2003, President Bush announced that troops had been deployed to Iraq. The war followed the Afghanistan War, which took place from 1999 to 2000. The war in Iraq has continued to rage on, even after the killing of Osama bin Laden, the person responsible for leading the attacks on September 11th, and the dismantling of Al-Qaeda and ISIS under the Obama and Trump administrations, respectively. Their forces still remain, but they have been severely weakened. In Iraq alone, 4,550 service members, along with 3,793 military contractors, have died. 9/11 was also used as reasoning for the passing of the Patriot Act, an act that allows the U.S. intelligence agencies to spy on its own citizens in the name of public safety. After decades of death and destruction, many Americans started to question the credibility of the wars. However, war is not the only reason that Americans have been turning towards more populist tendencies. In 2008, the largest financial crisis since the Great Depression hit the U.S. The crisis was largely propagated by the housing market. Homeowners defaulted on their mortgages, many were laid off from their jobs, and financial institutions like banks crumbled. Barack Obama, the recently elected president who had to deal with the financial crisis, essentially created a war on the middle class. Much of his legislation focused on bailouts for big banks and financial institutions that were too big to fail. His policies placed much of the U.S. financial burden on borrowers instead of lenders, allowing banks to recover but leaving families to struggle. Unemployment soared and the middle class shrunk. In years to follow, Democratic Socialist candidate Bernie Sanders rose to political stardom. His rhetoric focused on getting the wealthy to pay their fair share. He also focused on free college tuition, a far cry from the establishment Republicans and Democrats' policies of laissez-faire capitalism. Many Republicans became increasingly frustrated with Obama's immigration policies, and disaffected Democrats and liberal types began to defect from the Democratic Party. The American people were fed up with the established U.S. political order. And in the midst of all this political chaos and turmoil, the 2016 election rolled around. After a close race between Bernie Sanders, the populist candidate of the Democratic Party, and Hillary Clinton, the establishment candidate, the Democrats pushed forward Clinton, one of their most establishment candidates to date. Former Secretary of State for Barack Obama and wife of former President Bill Clinton, Hillary ran on much of the same policy as Obama. The corporate media and the Hollywood elites sung her praises. Touted her as the best thing to happen to American politics. Polls predicted landslide victories for Clinton, and it seemed as if she was a shoo-in for the office of the president. But nobody expected what happened next.
Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
Donald Trump launched his campaign with an emphasis on dissatisfied Americans. He promised to be tough on immigration, bring back jobs to America, and to make America great again. Donald Trump juxtaposed himself to the political elite in D.C. and capitalized on the frustrations of everyday Americans. Trump, like Sanders, was an outsider to American politics. He had never held political office before and appealed to the average Joe. In fact, a poll conducted found that a staggering 12% of Sanders supporters flipped in support of Donald Trump after Sanders lost the Democratic ticket. On election night, Trump narrowly beat Clinton through the Electoral College, even while losing the popular vote. The New York Times published an article calling it a repudiation of the establishment. The corporate media attacked Donald Trump at every chance they could get, through Russiagate, 2 failed impeachment attempts, and countless articles about the corruption of Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders was treated in a very similar way to Donald Trump. Corporate media hosts touted him as a possible end to American democracy and the systems that held our nation together.
Lose in a landslide. Joe, I'm going to take it one step further because this is how dangerous socialism. I find Donald Trump reprehensible as a human being, but a socialist candidate is more dangerous to this country as far as the strength and well-being of our country than Donald Trump. I would vote for Donald Trump, a despicable human being.
No, you won't.
Let me tell you
Stop
something.
yourself.
Countless McCarthy-like smears were levied against other populist political candidates throughout the Trump presidency. Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat, was called a Russian asset by Hillary Clinton. Andrew Yang was attacked for his policies of UBI, and Bernie Sanders was continually attacked for his policies against the rich. In the 2020 election, the Democrats once again put up one of their most establishment candidates to date, Joe Biden. A man who has been in politics for almost 5 decades and participated in the passing of bills that benefited the wealthy class at the detriment of the American people. In 2020, Donald Trump was defeated by Joe Biden in a controversial and highly partisan election. So far, Biden's return to normal has consisted of many of the same policies that resulted in the election of a boorish man like Donald Trump in the first place. With many of Obama's previous staffers being brought back and many of his policies making a return, the establishment seems to have regained power once again. However, it is unlikely that populism has ended in America. Many Republicans are calling for the re-election of Donald Trump in 2024, and with the rise in the popularity of Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang, it is likely that populism is here to stay.